Inside prediction markets. We're starting with the three big things we saw in prediction markets this week. Chris, what did you notice?
I've noticed we have a lot of news about Polymarket this week, and in particular, the ghost orders. So some good and bad news there.
What are the ghost orders on Polymarket?
Yeah, so, look, I'm not going to pretend like I know the full extent. I'm not a big user of Polymarket. I just know what I've read, reading Domer, who's a very reputable and knowledgeable user in the
Elton
space.
Maas, another big market maker, is mad about this stuff too.
Yeah. So when they had liquidity incentives, you basically get rewarded for posting liquidity. What is a downside of posting liquidity is obviously getting filled and adverse selection.
Yeah. If you don't, right.
Yeah, of course. Like, so everyone acts like market making is just like all you do is print money, but it's actually like not like that at all. So people were posting orders and immediately canceling them, so they would never get filled, but they would get triggered for the liquidity incentives.
So they were canceling them like on the blockchain, right? There's a way to actually, like, Polymarket records it as executed, but it never actually lands on the blockchain. So they were still caching rewards. And according to the engineer who worked on this, at one point up to 30% of volume on Polymarket was fake transactions like this. But they have made back-end adjustments. Everybody seems to agree that the problem has basically gone away. Pretty impressive not a great flaw to have, but also the kind of thing that often you're like, I don't know, this is so low level. How do we actually get at the heart of this? And it seems like they were able to do something about it.
Yeah, but it kind of just shows, like, you think like liquidity incentives and is all a good idea. And sure, it can be, and it works for people, but you've got to think about the downstream effects of everything and any decision you make.
Yeah. So to keep rolling with Polymarket, and we'll get more into gossip now, there was a clip of their CMO on Clavicular stream.
God.
Yeah, we didn't even prep this one, but I just remembered it. So absurd. About to whisper something to Clavicular, who is a popular streamer, and then says like, oh, we're on cam, we're on mic, like, oh, I almost got caught, and pulls off of it. And this got like millions of views with a bunch of people outraged about what it's hard to say, suggesting that some important insider information was about to be leaked.
Did you think that what this Polymarket CMO did was out of line or bad?
If I was the officer of an important business and I saw that I was on camera, I would not, and I was at a nightclub.
You are the officer of an important business.
Yeah, if I was at a nightclub intoxicated and I saw cameras, I would kind of try to get away from the cameras rather than be like, I work at Polymarket. Like,
okay, but that's
a mistaken judgment. I don't think he was about to give away company secrets.
This is so overblown, and people just want to bash Polymarket, which is ridiculous here. He was obviously observant and aware enough to not say anything, and was like, "Oh, I'm on camera. I shouldn't say anything." What do you want him to do? Like, have no social life? Not go out club? Like, just because you're like the CMO or like an officer of an important company doesn't mean you can't ever like party and have a good time.
The vibes of it are sketchy, though, right? It is sort of like, oh, this guy's out here just vibing really hard. But I understand why people looked at it and felt kind of fishy about it.
I don't think it's that bad. Like,
no, it's not.
I think it's just funny, and honestly, it's a good thing. Maybe not a good thing.
Also, do you think they they obviously have a financial relationship with Clav because he was like wearing Polymarket gear? Was that him? There's a possibility they do. Do you think they paid to get the clip circulated everywhere and like very specifically targeted this clip?
It's possible.
Yeah, you never know. The behind closed doors social media wars are insane in PMs.
Yes, and that makes me think it's like, I can't believe that Kalshi and Polymarket both came to the grocery store idea the same day, the same week. It's incredible.
All right, and our last one.
Domer posted a huge thread about Oracle being manipulated, and it's our boy Clavicular.
Oh yes, it was. It was is Clav's girlfriend pregnant market.
Yes,
where lots of evidence point. I mean, Clav is just the key to all of this stuff right now.
Clav is just
where he makes some offhand comments. I mean, the guy says anything just to generate clips, right? We just talked about it. So there's some clip of him saying his girlfriend's pregnant, but then other clips of him saying he was joking, and kind of most importantly, there's zero proof that she's pregnant. Yeah. And it's not the first time he said he's gotten a girl pregnant on stream. So Domer advocates that this market should settle to no because there's no hard evidence. the UMA Rocks group, basically like the power cabals behind the UMA that work on a lot of the settlement, pushed it towards a yes settlement, which they presumably have financial incentives in. And it just kind of highlights the nature of the Oracle. It is not resilient enough to withstand these kind of low liquidity markets that people are trading in, and it's not clearing some integrity bars that you would expect.
This is why, like, the key thing from that thread I got was someone on the UMA board was also a position holder of the market. That can't happen. There's why trading and the exchange is firewalled under the CFTC for this exact reason. You cannot have the exchange setting markets and settling markets to their own favor. It has to be, and that's something that I think a lot of recreational users will get frustrated with. It's like the exchange will settle take the Damar Hamlin game a couple of years ago with was the Bills and the Bengals. Yeah.
Where they ended the game early.
Right.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
How do you settle that?
Yes.
I guarantee you that every sportsbook, every exchange that was operating at the time settled it, got someone pissed off, and they didn't do, like, the exchange and book did not settle it in their own best interest. They're doing it to piss off as little people as possible.
Yes. Yeah.
And they still get people.
Overs grade, yes. Unders push, all the kind of like customer friendly
and then
stuff.
You always know someone who's like upset about some little thing. Yeah. And it's like, this is why you have to have them separated, because this is a clear violation. And if you have people thinking that clear violations are happening, it's problematic. You need to have only the true dum-dums of the world think there's some collusion.
And the question is, Polymarket really wants to migrate their offshore product to, they want to serve it to the US rather than standing up this US product. One of the big obstacles is decentralization, right? If you aren't in control of things like settlement, how can you be compliant? And it's not just a theory problem. Like this, stories like this kind of highlight why this matters. So it'll be interesting to see how they proceed. Okay, up next, we've got a very cool, never before seen guest, our friend Max. Very excited for that.
Yep. In the Optic Odds Hot Seat.
That's right. Today, in the Optic Odds Hot Seat, we have our close personal friend Max. Max, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Max, one of the best market makers in both crypto and sports. Truly one of the absolute crushers. It's a pleasure to have you on, Max.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
And we're also kind of old friends, but I've personally never met you until today. So nice to meet you in real life.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, we've been working together, chatting on Telegram for a little more than a year now, I guess.
I don't think we've done any side pot gambling, but I've played a lot of high stakes board games with your partners. With varying results. I know Chris is so disappointed in me.
Of course, we're you start getting into that almost immediately.
It's my favorite topic.
We actually have probably the best market maker that we've ever had on this thing, and you want to talk about stupid board games.
Well, I also want to talk about stupid board games.
So you are a 15-minute crypto trader. Is that right?
I've been competed out of those for a little while now.
What do you think happened there? That's my first question.
I think the 15-minute and the hourlies they have the most volume, the most retail interest, and also I don't know. So in some ways the hardest to price as a market maker, and in other ways the easiest to price. So basically anyone that is looking into trying to make money, trying to make real money in these crypto binary markets, the first thing they're gonna jump to is these 15-minute and hourly markets. So there ends up being a really crowded. It's a really crowded trade where there's a lot of money in it, but also a lot of money to lose. So.
Hang on a second. Yeah. Before we get more into that, could you give us a brief 1-minute background? We know you, but our audience might not know who you are. What's your background? How'd you get into trading and gambling, I guess, in general?
I guess growing up, I was always really interested in this stuff. I was the Monopoly banker as a 4-year-old. That was my favorite thing. I love board games. Started playing more video games. Played a lot of poker in college. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of all the same person,
Yeah.
Played a lot of poker in college.
Where'd you go to school?
Caltech. And then worked like in prop trading at a real company for like 4 or 5 years after college.
Which one?
Acuna Capital. And I was trading crypto options there. And we were like one of the or like the first like real institutional market making crypto options.
What venues would you be selling crypto on at that time?
Variety of venues, mostly like online internet exchanges. The regulation there is like very gray area. Not in terms of like our legality to trade it, but in terms of like how the U.S. regulates the exchanges themselves.
Yeah.
So a lot of U.S. companies are like pretty, like they're a little wary of entering the market. So we kind of got first mover advantage, and built up our tech and all that. So yeah, I was working there for 4.5 years, and then started like dabbling in prediction markets. Obviously, crypto binaries are almost the same thing. So naturally, I had a pretty big advantage. At first, when I started doing it, there's literally just like Polymarket, 1 Bitcoin weekly strike, 1 ETH weekly strike.
Yeah.
Now there's like 400 instruments going on at the same time for any prediction market usually. But yeah, I basically noticed that I'd look at the order book and it'd be like Bitcoin above or below 70K on end of week. And currently Bitcoin's trading at 69K. And like the bid ask is like 55 at 60. Yeah, it's like it doesn't make any sense. Like
it's more likely to go above 70K is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically there was no one was market making any of this stuff. And like there were only buyers.
People just like the open.
And there were only buyers, right?
Yeah.
So everything. So
it's like one-sided player props.
Yeah. So basically, for like the first 2 months, I was just like infinitely short, like Bitcoin and ETH, like every week, because like it also like no one would react to price moves, and I was just like sitting there running everyone over. But it was like it's like small market, so like small volume, small profit, but like very high edge.
It's so funny how people are just like fade the public doesn't work, and it's like nope, it actually does kind of work. Like, I did have a question earlier. We were talking about when you got competed out of the 15-minute intervals.
Yeah.
Did you go from profitable to unprofitable, or from like making a lot to you're barely getting any flow? It's making money, but it's just not worth your time anymore.
I guess like initially there's less competition, and I was like making a lot of money in them because retail jumped on really quick when Polymarket started them up, and then later Kalshi started them, and like I usually have the advantage of being first mover. Like generally my thesis is to set stuff up really fast, don't test anything, and just send in prod. And then also as like
I've witnessed that
as like an individual, I like DDoSed you a while back. But yeah, and as an individual, I feel like I have more like I'm more able to do that because like I don't have outside funding like staring down my back. I don't need to like do OKRs or anything to figure out like what needs to be prioritized. What needs to be prioritized is like what I think needs to be prioritized, and then I just do it, right?
Vibes.
Yeah. So yeah, initially it was kind of just like first mover. I have like a pretty solid pricing model and pretty solid speed, but after a while it was just like really competitive, really tight. I wasn't getting much volume, and the only times I was getting trades was like when I had a pricing issue. So I ended up like starting to lose a little bit of money. And yeah, rather than like, I guess like dabble in trying to improve it, but I have enough like things to work on and things to improve that I kind of just got to pick what's like the highest EV, the most profitable at any given
Before we
moment.
get off of it, Basically, everybody I've talked to who's traded the short-term crypto market says that one day someone came along who was just crushing everybody on latency, and that it was like just unwinnable. That in terms of like copy trading off of flow on the major exchanges, right? Like if there was a big price move on Hyperliquid or something. I'm not an expert, but that it was like somebody is like profoundly front running, such that the working theory I've heard from a half dozen people is it's a major player with direct access to the exchange, where the rest of us have to eat the hop. Was that your experience? Did you feel like somebody came in and just made these unplayable? Because I've got a bunch of people who will swear with their hand on a Bible that happened.
I might have been. I guess I'm not sure exactly about the timeline. But at least from my perspective, for the first like month or so that Polymarket came out with them, like I was just better and faster than everyone, so I was
maybe it was just
running
you,
everyone
yeah.
over. But then like I don't know, the past few months, it hasn't been me. I guess it's also that like Polymarket keeps fucking with their like they had like a maker delay, and then later they had a taker delay, and then like I don't know, they changed the back end a lot, and they're getting better at like documenting it and announcing it. But basically, like whenever they make a change, like obviously it's gonna like help certain players and hurt other players. There is one day where I convinced them to do a taker delay for a while on these short dated markets, just to help liquidity. And then like one day overnight they removed it without telling anybody. And then like one taker like destroyed everybody. So maybe that's what you're talking about.
No, but that's another issue. That's enough to make you quit too. Yeah.
But at least like I was like basically out of the game at that point. But yeah, I make most of my money, and like I'm definitely the leading liquidity provider for the like medium dated stuff, like 12 hours to like 30 days out. I'm probably like the dominant guy. And then they also have like year-long markets, which are like less interesting. A lot like the markets move less. But I'm also doing.
Are you solo deving the medium term markets?
Yeah. All the crypto stuff I do on my own.
So I've always wondered this. Forgive me if this is very obvious an answer, but like for the really short terms, is manipulation and price not a huge thing? Because like we obviously have derivative. You're betting on the derivative of it, and if I load up like and I buy like. If I know I'm going to buy 10 million BTC, I can just like trade like over, or if I short, I can trade the 5 minute under and like fuck you that way. Does that not happen? Or?
Usually no. Like the settlement price or the settlement exchange is like this index that indexes across like a few really large crypto exchanges. So you'd need to like basically between like fees and slippage and all that, you'd be paying, I don't know, like tens of or hundreds of thousands of fees during like
it's a classically well constructed derivative where the underlying is more liquid.
Or usually. So like I don't know, you pick like 10:30 a.m. on a Tuesday, like probably no, but like 3 a.m. on a Sunday and you're trading XRP instead of Bitcoin, then this actually happened a couple of months ago. Basically, the four main products on Kalshi and Polymarket are Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, XRP. XRP is like the smallest coin by market cap, like the least volume, and then naturally like the order books are like the thinnest. Mm-hmm. So one day a couple months ago, someone came in to the they didn't release the 5 minute markets yet. It was like the 15-minute markets, and basically at the start of the 15 minutes, he'd just like lift the over nonstop, and there's just like all these market makers just auto quoting. They're all asleep. Right?
How much liquidity could he get on the overs?
I think he got like a few 100K contracts. Okay. He'd pay like 55 cents when it's worth 50. And then he just like went to Binance and lifted XRP and paid like a few thousand, and to sell out of it after the 15 minutes. He like paid a few thousand in fees, but made like a couple $100K every 15 minutes. And he did this from like, I forget the exact time. He did it from like 1 a.m. like Saturday night to Sunday until like 4 a.m. Saturday night to Sunday, and basically drained like 5 different market makers' wallets completely because they're all asleep, and they woke up and they had no money. Like,
can you imagine that night just sitting there every 15 minutes, being like, all right, let's see if it works again. Like, so the sun's starting to come up.
Is this illegal, or is this just like?
No. I mean,
as
like,
my attorney,
yeah. I mean, it's like the question is like, what will XRP settle to? Like, it's not like you're allowed to buy or sell on exchange. It's just like.
Get fucked.
On Poly, it doesn't matter, right? Polymarket is not answering to any.
Yeah, but even if you did that on Kalshi, I don't think. I don't think it's illegal at all. Although on Kalshi, it settles. On Kalshi, it sells to like a 1 minute TWAP, like the average price across 1 minute.
Yeah, so you can't spike it at the end.
So it'd be a much more expensive trade.
Yeah.
Practically, what it should mean is like market makers need to be like sizing and fading based on like the liquidity on regulated exchanges, right? They shouldn't.
And
be
also
offering,
market activity. Yeah, you need fail safes.
You can't be offering like 1 million contracts if like lazy. On Binance there's only like 10K, you know.
And I mean, we get into like the second derivative of that, which is like, or if you're not going to do that because like you said, sometimes you just move fast and like ship to prod. If you're just moving fast and shipping to prod and you're holding like 2%, you have to mentally be like, no, I'm really holding 0.5%. Because I've backloaded this extinction event that's going to come sooner or later because of the way I, conduct myself.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people don't like they agree to it. It's like the like me sowing versus me reaping thing, right? It's like I just shipped to prod because like first mover, and I know it's risky, but it's worth it. And then the day that your comeuppance comes, you're like, how could this happen to me? I don't deserve this.
Yeah. For me, when it happens to me, I'm like. Like I expected this to happen like several weeks or months ago, and I'm glad it lasted this long.
That's very important. All right, so that's the crypto side of things.
Yeah.
Sports is the next big category for you, right?
Yeah. Those are my 2 main things. Crypto's been like 75-80% of my like efforts and my P&L. But yeah, sports.
I know how well he does at sports. if this is like the secondary.
Do you know Jelko?
No, I don't know anyone in crypto and anyone in sports.
Jelko is one of the great sports bettors and also horse bettors.
He's just one of the best gamblers of all time.
Yeah, blackjack, AP. He's a guy who's always winning the lottery when the prize pool gets too big. Like his group just won the Texas lottery a few years ago. And you talk to him, he's a very smart guy, and he knows all the ins and outs of trading sports. And then you go, oh, this is like his 4th best thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we're kind of going toe to toe here. I'm like, he does this as an afterthought. So so similar. It's like, I do 20%.
We're like worried about how can we compete with Max
on sports,
and he's doing 20% of his fucking efforts. And we're barely keeping up.
And so my understanding, I don't know, we're not going to dox your friends, but buddies who approached you and said, hey, if we explain how sports works, can you implement it? And then you went and did it, and now you rip. Is it something like that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess, like, market making anything is, like, I feel like if you have, like, a deep understanding of, like, how order books work and, like, who's on each side and who's to worry about, like, every market is effectively the same as long as you understand, like, the specific dynamics of, like, who's smart on what timescales.
Yeah.
And then again, like how to read the order book, which is like surprisingly difficult.
We have some fun stories about this, but
well, smart on timescale is so interesting in sports because it is super compressed, right? Like markets might have 24-hour life cycles.
Exactly.
But the efficiency from open to close is like an insane scale, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's not like crypto. Kind of the people who are good, I'm sure, 5 minutes to post are the same people who are good a minute to post, right? Whereas like in sports, it's a totally different crowd and dynamic, and that's
there's people that just like know the answer to the test beforehand. Some people that are just fast, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I started out similarly, like I was market making the Polymarket crypto binaries, and they started coming out with like a few like sports money lines. This was in like November, December 24. And then I guess again I just see it and I'm like, all right, like I can price these things like decently enough. I can just scrape odds from somewhere. No one else is doing it yet because it's like literally day one. And then it was also like right after the election where Trump won. And,
There's a lot of rec money in them.
and like people
Accounts
like
are loaded.
a bunch
Yeah,
of like
right, yeah.
complete fucking idiots made like
Yeah.
millions of dollars. So I was just like market making that stuff with no competition again. And you know, some random dudes like, I really think the Celtics are going to win. I'm going to pay through like 10 cents pregame, right? So
The infamous Trump and Celtics.
So you basically
the mayor of Boston.
all
course,
all the stupid people's monies went straight to your to
yeah.
your
So
bank.
like I like basically like almost like outside of like I guess like my personal sports P&L, I was like siloed from my partnership sports market making. Like most of my P&L just came from like the first 2 months of that.
Just like egregious
like absolute
pricing
free money. Like none of the sharps or modelers or whatever had like realized that Polymarket is a thing with no fees and like no, obviously they have fees now. Like no fees and like I guess decent liquidity, mostly because of me for the first little bit. And then obviously like pretty quickly it got more competitive. I had to iterate and improve and be more selective with like how I'm trading instead of just posting like 200,000 contracts on each side at all times of the day and live, you know.
It's funny how like exploitable that your system probably was in the beginning and how bad it was, but it doesn't matter because your counterparties are just unbelievably stupid.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
It mattered a little bit.
You know, it's like I make a bunch of money and then like one day I am like shit, like I got run over, and then you know it's kind of like great until it isn't, and I think a lot of like doing well in market making and prediction markets in general is like being hyper aware and paranoid of like not being the smart one in the room. And I guess for me, like I've found a lot of success just like being really early and knowing I'm the smart one in the room, and then like just like staring at the trade list every day until I realize I'm not the smart one in the room. You know?
Do you actively monitor your trade activity pretty closely right now?
Yeah. I have like a bunch of vibe coded GUIs that are pretty primitive that I don't know. I think like once you like understand how to trade, like all you need is a trade list. And from there you can understand everything you need.
You're on a bunch of venues now, right? Because you keep talking about Polymarket, but you're cross venue.
Yeah, Polymarket was like my first one and basically the only one I was on for a few months. And then I onboarded onto Kalshi like a few months ago.
Do you want to talk about how that went down?
Onboarding on a Kalshi?
Yeah, or like because this is like how we kind of really started to get to know each other.
Yeah.
Oh, you two.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if you were. Yeah.
But it was kind of a mess when like we were onboarding together. But at least I onboarded my crypto stuff on like afterwards, and that ended up being like fairly smooth because it was like just me. It was like a lot simpler.
No, the story. This is the story. This is also like we'll leak one of the big accounts on Kalshi is. A couple months ago, before I started working at Novig, I wanted to like get involved in the market making thing, and I was like, Henry, do you know anyone? And he was like, yeah, I know Max and like two other guys. We won't dox them.
I know Max's team. Yeah.
and Max's team. And they're like, they're gonna go on a Kalshi, and like they're looking for an investment. I was like, all right, great, let's do it. So we got a deal. I invested in them, and it's the GRP wins account on the Kalshi leaderboard. It's all this genius here.
It's like half me.
Yeah, and the other two guys. Been absolute pleasure working with them. I'm sorry I have to kill it now that you guys will be fine on your own, but my investment will have to be pulled because I'm focused on Novig. But it's like I couldn't like. But there's another funny story there. Which like I saw the iteration process in the first month. Like one of my favorite stories is we had I think a 200 or 300K contract limit. That was the risk exposures I had, and I look in the account one night and there's 300K contracts on an NBA overnight. And I flip out and I start like raging at them in the chat. And I'm like, why the fuck do we have 300K contracts on an NBA overnight? Like, this is not. And they're like, we're already talking about it. We're already talking about it. Fortunately, somehow did not get negative CLV. Yeah. But it's just like little lessons like that. It's funny, like looking back at it.
Yeah. A lot of like kind of venue or like category specific stuff. You know, like I like watch sports and I love sports, but
NBA's a fake league. You don't find out till you start playing it.
And I never knew that like obviously now that like once I got like a shit ton of size at like 2 a.m. like I knew it was probably garbage, but I never really thought about it like beforehand. And, like in crypto, my stuff's running with the same parameters the whole day every day. You know?
Yeah, overnight's a nightmare. I do remember connecting you guys and being like, now look, it's going to take a little bit of time for you to get to know each other because there were some strong personalities on both sides. And I was on a family vacation in the woods, and I got back-to-back calls from your team and Chris's team being like, I can't work with these guys. Like, this is what... And I was like, just call them back. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, there's not that many options out here, guys. Figure it out. And it all worked out.
Yeah, it worked out great. But yeah, I guess the personalities you're talking about are mostly the other two, but I'm also known to be pretty pretty direct with the exchanges when I think something's going poorly. Yes, as I'm sure all your guys are not too happy about.
No. I think on the exchange side, oftentimes max screeds from 6 months ago crop back up again, especially as they're going to open up the API in the coming months, and some of the there's certain little complexities like you were talking about to the specifics around delays and delayed cancels and rate limits and terms of service. And it's one thing when you have a controlled list of market makers and like direct lines of communication, but at an open API level, it's like, okay, we got to really hammer all this stuff out. And it's good to anticipate, because it also, like you said, it's bad if you ship something that doesn't work and then you panic patch it and don't tell anybody, and you have people who are running production code that assumes it. There's a lot of stuff to avoid. Yeah,
I think definitely like it's good to have as an exchange to have like market makers that are like open and honest, because like the way like I'm thinking is like, how can I make the most money possible? And like a lot of that is like, how can I exploit like exchange specific rules to like maximize profitability, right? So if you're like, hey, we want to ship this logic change, the first thing I'm thinking is like, how can I hack it? Like how can I like use it in like not the way it's intended, Or
if I'm not gonna do it because it's either prohibitive or whatever, but I know it's possible, now I'm exiting the market because somebody is going to do it, and I can't be there to be the punching bag. And so then liquidity dries up. Yeah, that's totally the annoying thing, is it's like, guys, can we all just like not be so selfish? But you have to take care of the exchange side.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely had a ton of like conflict with I guess mostly Polymarket, since I was like their big market maker for a long time in the earlier days, with like for a long time none of them, like Polymarket, it appeared, and I believe like they had like no one with any market making experience on their team for like any of 2024 and like most of 2025. So
do you like the people they've added since?
Yeah. Like the team now is like pretty great and pretty responsive, and obviously there's like a little bit more bureaucracy, but it seems like my input it like goes straight to the top, which is nice. When in the past it took them like a little while to realize that my input should go straight to the top. Kind of.
It should. Wow. Very humble.
Where I'd be like your GUI sucks. Like the reason why you don't have like users is because every time I click a button, it takes like 7 seconds to react. And then like 6 months later, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're fixing the GUI."
I think they've added a lot of people across the board over there. They're trying to change a bunch of things. It's hard to scale up to it being a $10-20 billion company that fast.
Yeah,
and actually handle the load and whatnot.
Yeah,
I'll apologize on behalf of Polymarket.
Yeah, but I don't know. Even just like I don't know, really basic like back-end logic for like how the order people match on the order book.
Yeah.
Like one thing that happened was basically for a while like I was doing great on Polymarket, and then eventually like I got some competition, and the dynamic was he kept picking me off. Like he'd take my quotes, and then like I would take his quotes, and like somehow we were both slower than each other, right?
What?
So then I would be like whoever was the taker somehow always
Taker
won.
was always
Yeah.
winning. Yeah.
And then I like ran some like timing tests, and I was like, all right, cancel takes like 0.3 seconds. Or sorry, like order insert takes 0.3 seconds and order cancel takes 0.7 seconds. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why is this happening? This doesn't make any sense.
It's good for volume.
The cancel should be quicker because it's like a easier. Like it should be the same, but
They
like,
should, yeah,
if anything, it should be
be.
quicker. It's like an easier thing to execute on the exchange side. You just like pull the order, right, instead of like create a whole new thing and like sign it because it's like Polymarket and you guys sign the contract. So then I was like I spent like several days looking into it. I like asked like every single employee at Polymarket like what is going on. Like no one could answer me, and then finally like one of their dudes, I won't dox him, but I like constantly had beef with this guy, and he's like he was basically in charge of like designing all their rules and tech.
This was Shane Copeland.
No. Basically, he was the one in charge of like designing how like all the order book logic, but somehow he doesn't know anything about market making, right? He was like, oh yeah, like we noticed that some people were like constantly like flickering their orders, or he didn't say flickering because he doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
But like constantly like inserting and removing orders. And it was like hurting liquidity, so we added a maker delay, and they like this. Apparently, they added like several months ago and like didn't document it, didn't tell anybody. But like I didn't notice because like there's just like no one else automated of like at any like real scale. And I was like, your solution to this is adding a maker delay. Is like they. So that like when you insert an order, you like can't pull it for a while. And like this is great for liquidity. And like maybe like
because it makes a bunch of stale orders. Like
like maybe
especially if none of the makers know it's there, it's especially good for liquidity.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's good for like 3 days, and then all the makers realize like, all right, we gotta like not make or make super wide and only take, right? And then like
you'd be surprised how easy it is on the exchange side to talk yourself into things on a case-by-case basis that don't actually make any sense.
Exactly. And
as
I
you try to like play the whack-a-mole game of catching up to things.
Yeah, and then I wrote I wrote like 5 paragraphs to this guy like explaining the order of events that will happen. You know, like first there's more liquidity, then all the makers realize they're getting fucked by each other, then everyone pulls liquidity, then there's gonna be no liquidity, right?
Yeah. And it's not just my idea. Like, there's a lot of theory behind this.
Yeah.
But don't make me go find it. Like, I don't feel like doing it.
The worst thing is the first order effect is there's more liquidity, so he thinks, good idea. And then it's like, no, it's not actually.
So then he's like, I don't agree. And then he just like doesn't respond to me for like a month. And then finally, like some other guy randomly chats me. He's like, hey, like I've realized there's like no liquidity on these markets anymore. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, I turned off quoting, and so did my competitor because we're just running each other over. And then finally, that like, you know, then they were like, oh, you're right. I'm like, yeah, I told you this would happen, and it's been happening for a month. You just like didn't notice.
Before Chris worked here, one trick I would pull if I had an opinion that I was kind of on an island with is I'd invite him into the office for lunch, and then I'd like bring up the topic and sit back, just knowing like he's going to say the same thing as me just because we come from the exact same background.
Yeah.
Might not even necessarily be right.
Yeah.
Just like same way of thinking. I'm like, oh, now there's like 2 people who think this. You know, like all of a sudden it's like we should take this very seriously. Yeah. Because you never know if somebody's just like pumping their own bags. By the way, you're at the mercy of, people do pump their own bags on this. You see it just in the Discords and stuff all the time.
How does, I guess that's a question, as an elite market maker yourself and obviously very profitable, how do you convince the exchange, or how does the work where like you're actually thinking of best interest for the exchange and you're not just like giving suggestions to make you richer?
I mean, I guess like 95% of the time, like both things happen, because like usually the things that are good for the long-term health of an exchange are good for the long-term health of like a market maker, right. That provides liquidity, because like any set of structure rules where there's some like extreme exploit, even if it like favors me in the short term, like in the medium to long term, it just means like the exchange is going to do poorly and there's not going to be much volume.
Follow up random question: what % of your volume right now, including like spots where you're like taking and everything, is maker versus taker?
I don't have very good metrics for that, but I'd say it's like 70-ish% maker.
That's surprisingly low. I was gonna guess like 90, 95. Wow.
Well, you're trading.
Or are you talking about crypto sports?
I guess if you could answer both separately. That'd be great.
I guess like, sports is like more maker heavy.
Is that as a nature of kalshi's taker fees being egregious, or is that?
That's part of it. It's also just because like generally, like the dynamic around sports is, I guess from what I can see, there's kind of like 3 main parties. There's like market makers that are like quoting and then like taking sometimes if there's like a big odd shift and someone's slow to it, right? And then there's like
that's super delay dependent too, right? Like, with some venues you just
and then there's like retail that are just like clicking top of book for a small size, and then there's like sharp takers that are either taking pregame or live for like big size. So naturally that just means like as a maker, almost all my trades are maker. Or like as a market maker,
because you want the small retail flow, obviously.
Yeah. And then like I personally don't have like the alpha to just be like lifting huge size on something, like against what the market thinks. And then for crypto, the environment is a lot less binned. It's like most of the volume on crypto is automated people, and then there's obviously there's like people clicking and stuff.
Crypto within the world of PMs.
Sorry,
like
crypto binary options on kalshi and Polymarket, right?
Yeah.
So then it's like, I guess there's that. So instead of there being like this like band of like automated smart people and like non-automated retail and like non-automated like sharps, right? Instead of like 3 bins, it's like this spectrum of like everyone's trying to build automation, especially with like the advent of like vibe coding and all that stuff. It's a lot easier to like ask Claude something and then spin up your idea in a bot and try it, right? And so there's the whole spectrum of like idiots trying to make a bot that is 100% going to lose money, and legit trading firms. There's like now a bunch of trading firms getting into this stuff, like automating all this stuff, and then I'm like somewhere in the middle, like hopefully more on the right side, So there's that, and then there's also like the fair value for a market is a lot less well known. Like the
notion of fair might not even really exist, right? Like what does it resolve to? Like in sports, you can literally say like, no, if this game was played 100 times, but like it's hard to even define the fair value of a Bitcoin.
But also in sports, like you can just look at DraftKings or FanDuel or something, and they're going to be within like 1 or 2%, right? But like for the
sharp DraftKings, always within 1 or 2%.
No, I mean like no,
it's true. Yeah.
No, but people always say like, oh, like you can't trust DraftKings compared to like Pinnacle and stuff like that. Well, 99% of the time, DraftKings is like right.
Yeah, like practically,
There's too much arbitrage.
Like practically, it's basically the same.
Yeah.
Like if DraftKings thinks the fair is like 64%, it's not going to be more than like 66%, unless there's like a huge odds shift.
The key thing I think that you've mentioned it earlier that needs to be said is this is true, but it's only useful if you move off a flow also attached. Like if you just anchored to DraftKings, you're just asking to get fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you a question. Oh, continue.
Yeah, but basically for crypto, like I guess the fair, like there's no like source of truth. You can't just like Google like any sports book and find the odds, right? The
hyperliquid midpoint isn't. Because it's the actual trading price rather than the probability of some.
Yeah, hyperliquid is or Binance, whatever. That's just like current spot price, that doesn't map directly into like a probability of something happening. Yeah. So these derivatives are like a lot more opaque in what the price should be. So it's kind of just like all these like semi-knowing but not all-knowing market makers like trying to figure out what the price should be, rather than in sports you got like on kalshi like 4 million contracts on each side for a game penny-wide, right? Like that doesn't exist in crypto.
All right, let me ask you a question. This is a handicap question. I like to think I'm a smart guy. I have no experience trading crypto binaries. If I started today with the goal of overtaking you in crypto binary markets, how much Claude budget would I have to spend to achieve that?
And assuming you stopped work, assuming he's
and like I never iterated.
We freeze your bot in place, and I'm like, I have sole mission is I just want to attack max.
I think you would need like I don't think solely using AI would ever make you money.
AI plus me, which is maybe like a 10% value add.
Yeah, I found it once
he's got 4 years of experience.
Well, yeah, like once it comes,
he's saying no amount of money.
Yeah, like no amount of money. Like you would need to like learn like foundational knowledge.
Yeah,
and then use that in conjunction with AI. I think AI in general is really good at like giving you like the first like 30% like overview of what a topic is and like how to understand it. But anything beyond that, at least from what I've found when I ask AI questions about things I'm an expert in, it like starts spitting out more and more gibberish, like the more detailed and specific
It's weird because I agree that it can't take you from beginner, intermediate up to like advanced, like 99.9 percentile expert.
Yeah.
But if you are that 99th percentile expert,
it
can do everything you want it to do. Like
if you give it
the playbook, it's like, oh, totally. In a way that it feels like it did know it all along. You know what I mean?
I mean, it kind of just does all the dirty work for you, I feel like.
Yeah. All right, I've got, this is a question in sports that was asked a couple of months ago. I'll ask it for crypto then. This is an AI-based question. If we freeze your bot now, current state now, in what year will the meme be, Claude, build me a crypto trading bot, make no mistakes? When will that be actually true, that I could actually do it and do it at a high enough level to compete or be better than yours? Do you think 2030, 2040? I mean, AI has increased dramatically over the last couple of years. Do you think in 2040 or 2050, it is actually intelligent enough to now like dominate? If we froze your bot,
like probably, like definitely eventually. Honestly, I don't know enough about like LLMs to understand like how the progress is going to work, but you know, it could like
the experts don't agree.
It could realistically be like 2 years from now. It could be 200 years from now. You know, fair. Like my confidence interval is like super wide on a question like that. But I think realistically, like I was like one of the early users of like AI coding, and like. For me, it's been extremely helpful, like because I could like code okay, but like not that great. And it's great for being like, oh, like help me like build this like contained function that has this input and this output. So it basically helped me like ramp up my trading really, really quickly because like building a trading bot, the coding logic is not that complicated. Like the value is like my brain, right? The value is like understanding how to price things and then just like spitting it out into English.
So here's a question then for I know your two partners as well for the sports side of your thing. You obviously had no sports experience. Do you think you could have made it as successful without them, or because they had insane domain knowledge that you did not have?
Yeah, obviously they added a lot of value. I think I was spinning up my Polymarket sports stuff before I started working with them. So I was already making pretty good money, but it was the easy.
But that's easy mode.
If I didn't touch that bot, I'd be down infinite money now. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely helped a lot. But yeah, nowadays the LLMs have different value to me nowadays because it's all these idiots trying to spin up bots that don't work using them.
It does make me kind of hopeful that it's domain knowledge. It seems to be worth more than ever now, right?
Because it just
bottlenecks
multiplies your value.
Because I remember 10, 15 years ago, it was well, if you want to do anything, you need to learn how to code. You just can't contribute unless you can write code. So you have to go to, and that takes a long time to get any good at it. And to the point where it became a meme. And it's kind of good to not have that be this, it shouldn't be that 30% of the undergrads at every school are in the computer science department. That's ridiculous. So I think it's positive. We'll kind of wrap it up, but are you targeting any other market categories besides sports and crypto?
Not right now. My general thesis is I want to make things that I think I'm better than everyone at.
Gonna be the smartest guy in the room.
Which is
smart.
which is really hard in a public exchange. So for crypto, it was I traded crypto options for basically as long as anyone has in the United States. So very obvious and clear advantage there. And then for sports, it was more just there's so much volume and so much demand for it that when in the early days I was I have to do it. And then since then I've been able to expand and meet a lot of smart sports people.
So let's ask the classic question. What's been your biggest mistake in trading prediction markets or market making?
Most expensive.
There's been too many. I don't know. Just it's kind of my biggest advantage is also the biggest downfall. In the sense that I just push things to prod and get them up and running ASAP. But what goes along with that is a lot of bugs. For crypto markets, for the longest time, to parse the instrument, it's will Bitcoin touch 100K this year, right? I'm syntax parsing that.
Literally just a string. There's no fields.
Syntax parsing.
Oh my god!
Yeah, we've run into this before.
So I literally have
that should be illegal, by the way.
I have hundreds and hundreds of lines of code dedicated to syntax parsing all of the Polymarket questions, right? Because in the old days, that's all they had. They didn't have a strike field or anything or any other fields. So naturally, I guess one of the ways I've lost a bunch of money, parse the string incorrectly. I'm basically just quoting the wrong instrument, the wrong strike or the wrong expiry, right? And I'm just puking money until I turn off.
Or kalshi at random rounding strikes up and down with no explanation about why they do it.
Yeah, I lost a little bit of money from that also.
Baseball props.
That's fun.
Yeah, baseball double headers. I lost some money doing that.
Oh yeah, God.
We made sure
everyone's done that.
We made sure to be very careful with that this year.
I made a tweet last year about that where there was I quoted the correct game manually, and then I got clicked for 350K contracts on a baseball game, and I'm did I get something stupid? And I'm getting 5 cents better than Penny, and I'm I don't think I did. And then I noticed they obviously had a syntax parsing error, and I'm oh nice, they got fucked, and I'm.
But sometimes it's it can literally read differently on the API versus
the
UI.
Exactly.
It might be actually
Well,
you're on the wrong one. It's you really don't know who's right and wrong can not even be meaningful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, last year when you guys had that app update that happened,
We've had it happen before. Yeah.
but yeah, that literally happened yesterday on Polymarket. I think it was the first couple double headers of the year last year. Or yesterday, and it was Rockies Mets. They were playing a 140 and 440 or something, and then someone was just like slamming me back and forth on.
Dude,
on,
imagine
like,
being
on
in the -3 time zone too, so it's literally 140.
They were slamming me on the second doubleheader game back and forth because the Rockies Mets game, the first game was live and it kept changing, like the odds kept changing.
Oh shit!
And I was like, I'll take it. So yeah, that was fun.
All right, we'll call it. Max, thanks for coming by.
All right, of course.